With the rise of communication in an online learning environment, Garrison, Archer, and Anderson began examining how to make that communication rich in order to increase meaningful learning experiences. While conducting various research, they developed the Community of Inquiry framework to help identify main components for online learning. They concluded there are 3 main areas. They found that meaningful learning in the online setting happens when the areas of social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence come together. As you can see from this diagram, when these 3 overlap, they're supporting discourse, a setting for the climate, and then it also involves selecting content. All of this comes together to combine a rich educational experience. Rooted in constructivist principles, this framework builds on John Dewey's theory of how learning occurs. He stated that learning happens through collaboration that respects the individual and where students assume responsibility to actively construct and confirm meaning. Let's take a closer look at the first section of the Community of Inquiry framework, cognitive presence. As Garrison, Anderson, and Archer stated, it is the ability to construct and confirm meaning through sustained reflection and discourse. This sustained reflection and discourse is established through the practical inquiry learning model. In the practical inquiry model, we see on the one hand the balance between private world and the shared world, in which learners' private reflection is joined together with a shared discourse in the community. On the other hand, we also see the points of insight being created between those phases of reflection and discourse. We can also see in the model that most practical inquiry begins with a triggering event that requires some sort of resolution. So that spurs learners into exploration, and as research is done, learners begin to make connections and search for solutions. This then moves them into the integration phase. Finally, learners identify and test solutions to verify and come to a resolution. There are several indicators for each of the 4 phases in the practical inquiry model, including sense of puzzlement that happens in the triggering phase and causes an initial idea, information exchange, which occurs in the exploration phase, connecting ideas, which can happen in the integration phase, and finally applying new ideas, which we often see in the resolution phase. All of these are examples of moving towards a strong cognitive presence. As the practical inquiry model indicates, there is a social aspect to the learning process in an online community. Garrison stated that social presence is the ability of participants to identify within the community or course of study, communicate purposefully in a trusting environment, and develop interpersonal relationships by the way of projecting their individual personalities. The ability to express ideas freely aids in the reflection and the refining of ideas and solutions discussed before. But before that discourse can happen, there needs to be a certain level of comfort for learners to communicate with each other in a constructive way. This involves participating in meaningful learning activities that allow for authentic conversations pertaining to the content. While these authentic conversations come more naturally in face-to-face settings, online communication can present a greater challenge. This is where the role of the educator becomes increasingly important. Pulling the area of cognitive and social presence together in the Community of Inquiry framework is the role of teacher presence. Within the framework, a teacher's role shifts from being the sole bearer of content to being a master facilitator, building meaningful interactions with content and fostering community between peers in order for students to construct their own learning experiences. The teacher becomes a masterful artist who removes themselves from the center of instruction and instead places learning in the hands of the student. This new kind of role requires a special set of competencies to be effective. It involves certain mindsets, qualities, and skills. Adaptive skills involve the ability to collaborate and seek innovative solutions to various challenges that we face in the educational world. Technical skills involve the ability to use various instructional tools and strategies to support effective learning. In addition to skills, educators must possess certain qualities. There's a level of humility within the Community of Inquiry framework. A teacher must model the practical inquiry model by being transparent, flexible, and collaborating with peers to create the most effective outcomes in their classes. Lastly, the teacher must hold to a certain mindset that is continually evaluating practices, embracing change, and seeking to modify and improve their curriculum. This combination of skills, qualities, and mindsets are essential for an effective teacher in the K-12 online learning environment. Those social, cognitive, and teacher presence all complement each other in the Community of Inquiry framework. The course design, which helps develop meaningful social interactions and cognitive experiences, is critical and begins with the teacher. It is with this in mind that the K-12 teacher must be aware of their great role in this process and continually seek to adapt and adjust practices based on new tools, resources, technologies, and student needs.